We're about to do something that's never been done before on a GTR. Now, when it comes to the GTR market, you would not believe how oversaturated it is with aftermarket parts. There are quite literally hundreds of options for exhausts, and that leaves us with the question, is it even possible to come up with something unique that provides good power and sound at this point? If so, what the hell would it be? Because it sure looks like everything under the sun has already been done. That's exactly what we're going to find out in today's video. Now, you know the drill. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a comment below, but let's get after it. When we got word that Alex's viewers requested that we do something for the GTR, it kind of left me in a conundrum. We've done a number of Alex's exhaust systems over the years to fanfare and renown. If you saw our 180-degree Aventador V12 squared exhaust video series, then you already know we don't build typical exhaust systems. We used a 4-to-1 collector to optimize the system scavenging, which resulted in a pleasantly surprising horsepower increase. There are some tremendous options for exhaust systems that offer incredible sound and great performance. So I was apprehensive, to say the least. Aftermarket options for customizing the R35 are seemingly endless. And it's for this reason building a custom exhaust on one of these is kind of a turnoff. A quick Google search of GTR exhausts yields dozens of options ranging from budget mass-produced pieces to complex titanium art for $10,000. Lots of configurations with things like balance tube, tube resonance chambers, Valvetronic control, multi and single pipe setups, and every exotic metal ever used to build an exhaust have left the marketplace saturated with no real consensus on which makes the car sound any different. Sound is subjective preference, but performance is not. However, when it comes to turbocharging a vehicle, the exhaust systems tend to be far less sensitive to getting the exhaust gas velocity to its optimum. In fact, a foot-long pipe exiting the turbo in the straightest possible path is almost always the best option for performance. So coming up with an exhaust system where we attempt to maximize untapped performance vector really isn't an option. So it's kind of hard to get excited about trying to take a crack at something where the outcome's been there, done that. The only thing we could really do is make something that's emission compliant, and then it also, we could run the pipe and then have a valve. You know what? I might have changed my mind. Okay, well, after seeing so many of you guys drop a request for us to do an exhaust in Alex's video, I did some soul searching. What could FMU do that would live up to our reputation of building exhausts that take the road less traveled, but actually be cool? Use things we know will improve sound, increase performance over stock, and what was in there, and just be damn cool when all is said and done. I have an idea that hopefully won't let you guys down.
So if you didn't check out Alex's video where he went over the exhaust, we'll throw the link up. When you're in the line of work of modding exhausts, you see it all. And while this is far from the worst we've seen, it's a bit surprising considering its MSRP. Aluminized mild steel always hurts our inner fabricator when we see it, but it really stings when it's on an R35, especially when the hangers are made of rebar. Alex gave some non-negotiables, but being I wasn't even initially interested, we haggled some artistic freedoms ourselves. With just an idea in my brain, we began further disassembly to remove the downpipes and inspected everything to make sure there are no unexpected issues Alex should have to worry about. The downpipes required some outside materials cut to get precise flange dimensions, and we opted to try heat shielding on these to help Alex control underhood temps. But these took a bunch of time to make sure they were right. With the pattern set and fitment checked, if you're looking for something for your GTR, we can build you a set. The exhaust plan is a little funky. Now, we're big fans of the 2-in-1 setups on 6-cylinder engines to control rasp. But the flow of the GTR means we had to get a bit more creative on how it could be done due to the space constraints of the rear transmission. Couple that with all the features and tricks that we're trying to fit in here, and this one was a bit tighter than we expected. But hey, if I ask for it to fit, Cody's the guy who can get it done. To keep with the sound expectations befitting a GTR, we need to maximize the tube diameter and get it out as quick and straight as possible to the tips. Alex mentioned some upcoming cosmetic rear bumper work that he was planning on doing, So we went with an overly basic tip to sort of placehold the size and shape. Now when it comes to keeping things civil, we'll be using a valve to divert flow into a less direct, smaller diameter tube that will use a resonated straight through muffler to keep noise levels in check. A few final FMU touches, and the exhaust is good for its final test fit and check over before Alex gets to see what we created. With Alex being on a deadline for future work planned and a trip to Italy, we basically had just enough time to get it up in place and route the vacuum lines and wires to and from the control box for our switched silence to violence system before he arrived.
Here we go, GTR exhaust. All right, I guess we'll just start in the back. Oh, get out of here. Dude, when did you guys get the fluid MotorUnion plaque thing? God, I mean, are we looking at these welds, guys? I mean, what in the world? Look at that. They're absolutely perfect. Wait, so what in the world is going on, OJ? Well, seriously, why? I don't even understand.
All right, Alex, so I know you're big on keeping the cats on the car. And a big problem with these cars keeping the cats on is fitting a decent sized cat in that space that allows the horsepower that these things can produce, right? So a lot of people end up going with test pipes. There are more free flowing ones, but ultimately, given the power that these things can end up making, especially if you're doing something like E85 later on, like we got to have a little bit more free flow,
Right.
Which means test pipes in the original location would probably be not a bad way to go, but that leaves us with how do you get the cats on here, right? So our thought was to move the cats further back in the system. Now, you're probably thinking like, won't that change the readings? Yeah, it does, but there's lots of adjustment in the computer programs, as you know. So I don't think that's going to be any issue that we're really going to run into. And you don't know until you kind of throw it in there, until it throws a light. So that was kind of the plan there, is how do we get you cats but still have it in the system where it's not affecting the power. So as you can see, they're not in the location. We were able to get those down pipes with the nice heat shielding on there.
Right.
And that turned out pretty good. We were real happy with that. But then how do we keep flow? You know, we have these giant, 3.5 inch sections moving down. And then this essentially becomes an X going into where we've got the cats at. And that's kind of where we get into the fun stuff, right?
Yeah, the megaphone.
So megaphones are more or less, you kind of got to test and see where you've got space at. Now, where it might sound best, you might not have any space for. You don't want to just throw it down or have something that's going to be scraping along the ground or not make sense in the final construction. So, but that being said, they make the car a little louder too. And having something where you can switch between the two is kind of what we were thinking. So you can kind of see our setup here, the valve running into the megaphone. And we got some noticeable sound difference when we were playing in this section, doing the exhaust. Now I will say it still sounds like a GTR, but you might pick up.
I'm okay with that. I like how GTRs sound.
You might pick up on a little bit of the tone difference.
Yeah.
It does sound a little bit different, and that was my whole thing. Is there's so many exhaust systems for this car, like you probably checked it out yourself. I mean, there's got to be 24 companies.
It's maybe even more. And the ones that did incorporate a cat, like you're saying, it's in such a weird spot, and it's right in the downpipe right after the turbo where you want the exhaust to be able to expand the most. So it's like, this is the best of both worlds at the end of the day.
It's the best of both worlds. It's going to give you kind of what you're looking for. But also, like I said, if you're decide to take the wife out for dinner, this thing's not going to, I mean, it's going to sound stock.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, honestly, that's exactly what I wanted. You know, an adjustable exhaust on a GTR. They never, even the new GTRs even have that? Any kind of adjustment?
You know, that I'm not familiar
exhaust?
with if they do or not. So
if they don't, they need to get with the times.
Right? Everyone else is doing it. A big issue for a lot of exhaust construction is this little section here next to the trans. There just isn't a whole lot you can do without getting goofy or crazy.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to maximize the pipe space to that location, and we did.
I don't even remember, where was the stock pipe?
I mean,
from
still
the factory.
the same location.
Same location, right? Yeah, it
but
seems to be the best
You
spot.
don't really have a whole lot of options because anywhere else you bring it, you're either running lower or you're splitting something off that's really not going to help flow. So
Right.
ideally, this is always going to be your biggest restriction on GTRs. But as you know, people are running this stuff with thousands of horsepower
Yeah.
through it. So
And at this point, the exhaust has cooled down a bit, so it doesn't need as large of a pipe.
Correct.
You know, that's probably why you guys did the 3.5 up
correct.
front.
Yeah, and then we still have the 3.5 all the way back. So
Oh, it is? Oh,
Correct,
wow.
yeah.
Okay. I thought it
so-
tapered down. No,
So
you're right.
yeah, we've got the sections to where we want it quiet, sizing down because we're
Oh,
using that
okay.
as well to control the volume by stepping it down.
Yes.
So, but that's where we maximize this as much as we could without getting too goofy or too close to other stuff. And then again in the back, another layer of sound control. As you can see, this ends up being more or less a straight shot out. So most of the exhaust is going to divert more to your driver's side. But when you're talking
Yeah.
about turbos and most of these systems going 2 through 1, it's not like it really matters. You're still going to get some flow diversion through the 3-inch as well, the quieter side, which actually will help keep that flow where it needs to be.
But under normal driving, if I'm in the quiet mode, it will all go through here,
It'll
right?
all go through, and then you don't really need maximum,
Flow.
volume,
Right.
maximum flow because your engine's producing way less horsepower. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't need to push through all that.
And this is it automatic?
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say automatic. You're going to have a switch
Okay.
that is going to be controlled via a key fob,
Right.
more or less.
Like in
So-
the express van?
Correct,
Yes.
on and
Okay.
off. But I think you'll be shocked by how the 2-mode sound between the two just idling.
Yeah.
But honestly, I haven't gotten it out on the road yet to hear what it sounds like under load, So
I haven't heard the car at all yet,
So-
so I'm pumped.
yeah, let's get it down and
Cool.
see what you think about the two
All
volume
right,
modes.
let's do it. So he's gonna start it up in quiet mode first. And that is very, very quiet. Wow, that's awesome. I love it. Wow. No. Oh man, you can hear the turbo. You can hear the turbo so good. It's like the turbo is back. Oh, that is awesome. Dude, that is sweet. I love it, OJ. That's awesome, man.
Well, that's a wrap. And you might be wondering, what do I think about it? Well, it was a challenge for me to jump into a project not knowing if the outcome would mean that we created something different and unique from what's already available. But I feel like we accomplished it, and I'm pretty proud of the work we put in. Now, part of the process of building an exhaust is a big unknown. You're taking the sound of what you hear and using your experience to try to put into practice what you think is going to work. And just because I have an idea of what might work doesn't mean my fabricator Cody can come up with something that'll fit that idea that I have in my head. But using the advanced skill and experience that Fluid MotorUnion has, I think we gave Alex exactly what he was looking for, and something I'm pretty proud of and happy that we did. But with that said, that's the end of the video. So if you guys, one last time, make sure you've liked and subscribed to our channel, and drop a comment, tell us what you think about the exhaust. And if you haven't seen Alex's full video on it, make sure you check that one out too. But till next week,